morning, Berlin! I'm your host, Peter Hochstetter, and ladies and gents, we have a very special episode for you. An election special. That's right, with the election looming close, we gathered all 4 candidates for the upcoming election for the office of Prime Minister for a debate. These candidates are as follows: Dirk Bürger, Paul Wegener, Jack Hinterland, and Reinhardt Weiss, with guest Joseph Reinhardt moderating. With that being said, let's cut live to Joseph Reinhardt and the debate stage now.
Thank you, Peter. Welcome, everyone, to the 1941 Prime Minister debate. I'm your host and guest moderator, Joseph W. Reinhardt. Tonight, we will be presenting the candidates for Prime Minister of Germany. Introducing from left to right is Dirk Bürger, Paul Wegener, Jack Hinterland, and Reinhardt Weiss. The candidates will each have 1 minute for questions and 1 minute for rebuttals. With that being said, let's get started with the question. How would you handle disagreements with the president and vice president to ensure a functioning government?
Disagreements between the executive and the legislative branch of the government is one of the most riveting problems that the Federal Council can face. The primary way to solve a problem such as this is to have clear communication with both offices. I would schedule meetings, have conferences, and create unifying policy between the two in order to create a more stable government. I would ensure that proper procedures are always followed and that no infighting occurs.
Am I free to begin?
You may go ahead.
I will handle any disagreements with discussion, perhaps some compromise, although I work for the people, and I'll ensure they always get the best end of anything that comes to them. I have great relationships with most people in the government. I have no doubt that I could come to a solution, regardless of the situation, regardless of the severity, the circumstances, whatever it may be. It'll result in a grand solution for the German people and their livelihood.
Wonderful.
That's my time.
Wonderful. We'll be passing it on.
What I would do is I would get both sides of the story. I would try to contribute as much as possible with better solutions. Solutions better for Germany, better for the people. I will work to solve the problem and not add on to the problem. Thank you.
Wonderful. And finally, Mr. Weiss.
As shown in the Siege of Munich in 1919, when we was beset by the communist forces, I diversely and skillfully united all of the factions of Munich to fight against the communist threat and break the siege, proving my skill as a politician. I would bring this forth to this new regime, new government, by talking with the presidential candidates, as I already have. We've already come to an agreement to resolve all issues before they become issues. So the simple way of avoiding any disagreements is there will be no disagreements in the government under my authority.
Wonderful. We will be moving on to our second question. What do you believe was the biggest success and failure of the last administration?
Fighting for the people. Some of their policy did benefit the people, and they acted in the best interest of the people at times. Well, I do believe they had a pretty big downside along with that. They did, on the contrary, have a lot of policy that went against the people. Just like the law to empower the people, where President Ambros Scheiße used his authority to take away the freedom of press and the freedom of free speech away from the people. I do believe that, entangles them with another failure they faced, which was to properly communicate with the ministers of the nation. But I do believe they did a lot of good for the empire. I now pass my time on to Paul Wegener.
Go ahead, Paul.
Okay. As I was saying to begin, my opponent here, the Minister Dirk Bürger, who is currently a member of this government of destitution, could not name a single actual policy from the president or the vice president at all. Not surprising though, seeing his lackluster tenure. I doubt he was even at any of those federal council meetings. He accomplished absolutely nothing. But to begin, the greatest accomplishment of the previous administration of the president was his policy appointing me as the chairman of the 5-point program. Through this, I obviously issued the 5-point proclamation, stating, order, honesty, loyalty, discipline, and order to be the primary functions of the people. And I promise that I will
And Dirk, would you
lead
like to
my
respond
government.
to that?
Sure. I will respond to the fact that he says he accused me of not attending most of the federal council meetings. Truly false. You can see through the reports of the federal council that I was present for most of them. And secondly, that I did not do anything during my tenure. I do assure the people that I've done a lot, and they can even see that in the National Broadcast System channel. I would even go as far as to say I've done more than my opponent Paul Wegener. But obviously we are in different fields, so it's hard to compare each other in our work because our work is not the same and it's not comparable in the slightest. But to accuse me of, practically doing nothing is just a falsehood. But that's all I have to respond. Paul Wegener, can continue.
Evidently, I am correct, seeing as the Truth Minister here published an announcement in his ministry asking for everyone to contact him, and then he later complained that literally no person had contacted him to keep their job in his ministry. Evidently, poor leadership, poor execution, and total failure on his part to administrate his ministry.
I believe that a functional government is a consistent and productive government that works for the future of Berlin through their federal council meetings. And I believe that the downfall is whenever higher-ups start empowering their own benefit and they start harming the civilian populace for their own benefit.
And we'll be switching light to Mr. Weiss. Go ahead.
One of the primary ambitions and successes of President Ambrose's tenure, as well as Vice President Monti, is the fact that they were extremely productive in getting laws passed and out the door, as opposed to previous tenures where you would get a couple of laws a month at most, leading to stagnation in the government. I would say one of their primary pitfalls, however, was leading too much into the political dramas of the government, which in the end led to the suspension and dissolution of the government. You can learn from President Scheiss in the fact that they both did things extremely effectively, but their actions also led to the dissolution of the government.
Would you continue any of their previous policies? We'll start with you, Mr. Dirk.
Of course, I would have to take a period to review all released policy in order to ensure which ones could be properly upheld inside the nation. An example of one would be to move the National Guard into any areas which Bolsheviks, revolutionists, lie. That's just one example. But as I said, I would have to review all policy released, and I'd have to pick which ones should still be upheld and which ones are deserving of a spot in the nation.
Wonderful.
Now concede my time to
Would
Paul
anybody
Wegener.
here like to respond to that?
I'll give a response.
Sure, go ahead.
While I don't dislike you, Minister of Truth, the fact that you need to go and review the laws passed when you've been a sitting minister is a little embarrassing. That's all.
Well, I have an allocated time to response.
You have 1 minute allocated.
I wouldn't believe it to call it embarrassing. You could go to any minister of the nation, just about anyone in the nation, and I don't believe they could, off the top of their head, pull every single policy word for word that's been released by President Ambrose Scheiser during his tenure. And same goes, for any law released by most people. He didn't release only one law, so it would make sense for someone like myself not to know every single policy that's been released word for word, which is why I would need to review them all. So I have the proper definitions in place, and I know exactly what's been enacted. I concede my time.
Wonderful. Is that everything, Mr. Weiss, or would you like to give a follow?
Give a follow-up for that.
Sure, go ahead. You have 1 minute.
So even amongst the people who are not sitting ministers of the cabinet can easily find the information regarding all past laws thanks to the wonderful National Archive. In the space of 10 minutes of research, I've already found several executive orders and mandates that I personally would follow up on, such as the executive order regarding the Council of Ministers by President Ambrose Scheiss, the Federal Initiative Against Acts of Violence, the executive order to go back to work. All of these are extremely good executive orders that force the ministers to actually do their job and their roles. Simply put, every presidential and prime minister candidate in this room should have already read up on the laws passed, because it is common sense that the candidates for prime minister should know what they're getting into. They are going to lead the cabinet, and they have to put their signature on every single law that's passed. So they should know what laws have passed in the past few weeks, at the very least, if not the past few months, because it's going to be their job. That is all.
Wonderful. We're going to continue the original question to our second candidate, Mr. Paul. Would you continue any of their previous policies, or do you plan a complete shift in government?
I can't guarantee the continuation of any policy as a blanket statement. Although, rest assured, as Prime Minister, I will my legislative agenda will prioritize the domestic well-being of the German people and the global standings of the German Empire on a global stage within Europe, which really is our own sphere of influence, which will be recognized as a primary objective of the government under me.
Wonderful. Mr. Jack Hertland, go ahead.
I would review. I have been keeping track with most of laws passed. I have been keeping track with the government and staying in touch and keeping my connections. I would review over relevant laws that have been passed and keep laws that are benefiting us and helping Germany, and take a second look at those that may be negative for us or not as great for us, or a waste in a way. Thank you.
Terrific job. And Mr. Weiss, please go ahead.
Okay, as previously mentioned, several of President Scheiss's policies that were put into place will continue to be upheld by myself, such as the Federalist Papers and the Economic Stabilization Decree. Obviously, as a Prime Minister, you don't necessarily have the same powers as the President, so the decrees that I would like to uphold, I would be working with the new President to uphold, because the Prime Minister alone does not have that power. But rest assured, pretty much every one of the presidential candidates support me as their Prime Minister. So no matter who becomes in charge, we will work to uphold the decrees.
Wonderful, and that's your time. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to introduce special guest with a question for the nominees, the Minister of War, General Oberst Archibald Bunker. Come on in.
My question to you, Prime Minister-elect, is this. What will each Prime Minister bring to the military that will secure their vote?
So, as we have seen in the previous administration, under the previous President Ambrose Scheiser, the Federal Council that served during the time did not make an effort to defend the Imperial Army from threats of external organizations. We saw that President Ambrose Shiza had to step in directly in order to intervene against the dismantling, essentially, of the War Authority. Through the position of Prime Minister, I promise to the War Ministry and the organizations thereof for a protection against any dismantling force which seeks to harm our war efforts and deconstruct the efforts we have brought to the front. I concede my time to Paul Wegener. Yes.
As I had stated previously, my legislative agenda will prioritize the defense of the Empire and the victory, the final victory over our enemies, to ensure close coordination between the military and the government, to make sure the military has what it needs to fight on these many fronts and in these many battles, which will be very costly and hard to achieve.
If I take office, I will put an effort into stopping all internal conflicts that slow us down as a government, and I will encourage our ministers in the federal government to put their attention to bigger problems such as the three fronts and communists that we are having to deal with. I also encourage our foreign minister to do his job more efficiently, or else he might have to be replaced. Thank you.
It is simple. The internal strife and politics of this great nation drive every agency to move forward, drive every agency to become more powerful to better serve the Emperor. It is without a doubt, there's no doubt in my mind, that every agency under the great German Empire serves the Emperor in their own ways. Everyone is striving to do this, while some may be less successful at it. With that in mind, I don't think any internal things are needed to change. What I do think is a new revitalization towards the war effort, which means I personally, Prime Minister candidate Reinhardt Weiss, pledge 2 million Deutschmarks within my first month of office to the Military War Planning Department to get them the membership they need to win this war.
That's like 5 divisions. Oh my god.
From one, Archibald Bunker. Or Bunker.
Bold.
My question to you all is this. What planned legislature will you make your campaign off of?
So, as I've answered another question, my ultimate goal as a legislator, as an advisor of law in the Prime Minister position, would be for the unification of the people of this nation, to eliminate selfish demands from the people. Through unification, we can grow stronger as a nation, stronger as one unified body against the ultimate threat, which is the enemies we face on the front lines, the communists, the Bolshevik revolutionists. Through unification, we will create a realm which has the capacity to defeat our enemies on the three fronts. I concede my time to Paul Wegener.
As I have previously already said,
I have a question,
my
Mr.
legislative-
Dirk.
Yep. Question?
Is there a script in front of you?
No scripts. This is an empty podium. General Oberst.
Do you have a friend named Chattel von GPT?
No, General Oberst. I do not know who that is. This is coming from the heart.
GPT.
This is coming from the heart to the people. General Oberst.
Empty heart it must be then.
General Oberst, do you want to go check if he has a script? I could go check real quick.
No, it's
I
fine.
invite.
It's fine. We won.
I invite someone
Oh,
to
you
come
do?
check my podium.
Oh,
I invite someone to come
why don't
check
I take a
my.
look up there?
Please. purely black from the stainless
Oh.
steel, which is embedded in this podium. No script, General
Okay.
Oberst. This
Okay.
is a promise to the people and a promise to the fighting nation of this of the Empire.
I have another question, Dirk.
Part 2. Let's hear it.
Did you just admit to the nation that you're wholly unprepared to ask questions?
Pardon?
Oh my god.
Well, I'd expect any competent politician to have his notes ready. Instead of you have none.
All candidate elects have agreed that we were not to receive the questions before this debate started.
He's stuttering.
Just as my
Right, but
political
do you
opponent
not
said
have
at the beginning,
a set of
prime
notes
ministers
ready?
prime ministers are supposed to be able to stand on stable ground without a set script in front of them. They are supposed to be strong minds. A set script would compromise the strong mind of a prime minister elect. It would make them rely on something. A prime minister should not rely on
Okay,
one
let's move on.
singular object. Okay, Paul Wegener, I concede my time to you.
As I've already stated, I will prioritize the defense of the Empire and the victory at hand over all others. I guarantee the people that we will have a safer nation under my leadership as Prime Minister. We will have a more prosperous military, a more prosperous nation, and more prosperous people who are willing to give their lives for what they believe in fighting in, the German nation. That is all.
Oh, sorry.
That
sorry,
means
I
I
almost
yield my
fell
time to
asleep
you,
there.
Inquisitor.
Boring!
My federal council or ministers will be open to new ideals helpful to the future of Berlin. We will not have greedy ministers that only work to benefit themselves. We will have ministers that open to ideals that will help the future of Berlin, not just themselves. Whether it's the wars or internal conflicts or anything, we will solve issues. Thank you, and I pass my time to you.
Oh, wow, that wasn't actually that bad.
It is simple. The end result of my tenure as Prime Minister will be the end of communism, the end of all of Germany's enemies. We will not rest until Germany rules the world. And we sit our Lord, our Emperor, Hendrik Baumer, on top of the throne of that world. We will control everything. We will control the air. We can control the sea. We'll control the ground. We'll even control the sky. We will expand into space. Under my tenure, we will expand the Ministry of Science. They are already conducting research for spacefaring vessels. By the end of my tenure, we will have a colony on the moon. Mark my words, it will be done.
And finally, our last question. Why should the people choose you over your opponent? We'll start with Mr. Dirk Bürger.
Because of my will to fight for the better of the people. My pledge to the people. My promises to the people to restore their good faith in the Federal Council and what it has to offer for the nation. They should trust me with their legislation because I will bring a better future and a better change to their lives. That's all. I concede my time to Paul Wegener.
People should vote and select me as next Prime Minister because I will heal our national duress. I will restore strength to a government that has been burdened by political chaos and inability to act. Countless people have been despaired of a good and wealthy future under this government and have fallen to hopelessness. He who opposes a national failure, who is looking a way out of this confusion and chaos, they will vote for me, because I will restore order the government and ensure the government is working by the people for the well-being of the people and the prosperousness of the German nation as a whole. I yield my time.
I have been loyal to Germany. I have been contributing. I've been trying to help out as much as possible. One, if I do get office, this will allow me to contribute even more and bring a positive government, a productive and efficient government. Whether I get in office or not, I will continue to be loyal to Berlin forever. And I pass my time to Reinhardt.
I am one of the most loyal servants of the Emperor and one of the most experienced civil servants in the German Empire. I am the first consul and senator of the Emperor's party, the Right Rose Coalition. I am the first and last Rosenleiter leader of the Emperor's party's paramilitary service. I am the first Reichstag president under the Emperor's new Imperial Germany, and I am the spear that helped annihilate communism. What I will do is what I've already been doing. I will continue to serve the Emperor, and I will continue to drive the German Empire forward.
And that concludes our debate this evening. A special thanks to you, the candidates, and to Good Morning Berlin. I'm Joseph Reinhardt, and thanks again for watching.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the prime ministerial debate. A big thanks to Joseph Reinhardt for last-minute moderating. Citizens, arm yourselves with the truth. Keep yourself informed, and remember, vote. This nation cannot endure if you do not use your right to vote. Your vote matters. The highest echelons of government are on the ballot. Make your voice heard. Get out there and vote. With that being said, I'm Peter Hochstetter, and this has been Good Morning Berlin. Take care, and see you in the next reel.